All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Leafs Town. As promised, we were trying to be a little bit more consistent, so we're back. Me and Q, we're going to be doing another episode because today Elliot Friedman on Twitter has reported that the Toronto Maple Leafs have waived free agent signing forward Nick Ritchie. Making $2.5 million for the next 2 seasons, and he is now on waivers. So we're going to be giving you our thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, so first of all, for those who don't know, $2.5 million is how much Richie's getting paid, and he hasn't been amazing this season.
Definitely not. I think he's played in 30 of Toronto's 34 games this season, and he has, I think, 1 goal in those 30 games, and I think 8 points. And you have to keep in mind that this is a guy that started this season in Michael Bunting's current spot, which is that first line left wing, and he's played bad. I don't want to say bad. He started off the season really bad, but he hasn't lived up to his contract and he hasn't performed. And now he finds himself in the 13th forward position. And for a team that's, I guess you would say as cap strapped as the Leafs are, they can't really afford to pay their 13th forward on their roster $2.5 million.
Yeah, and it was something that I mentioned before. Richie, when he was on the fourth line, he was definitely doing a lot better. He was definitely doing a lot better than he did. He looked a lot better than he did on the first or second line, wherever he was up in the lineup. But I did also mention that for $2.5 million, playing on the fourth line, that's just not good enough. Um, so it was
Um,
inevitable if he couldn't step up his game to be playing in the top six that he pretty much had to go. And at that, this is a bit earlier than I expected, but it was gonna happen at some point. It looked like.
Really, for Ritchie, it's just the Leafs forward core is finally getting healthy, right? Like we mentioned in one of our previous videos that in the Ottawa Senators game and then now the Oilers game, that this is like the healthiest the Leafs roster forward core wise at least has been all season long, where they've had all their guys. And the only reason Ritchie was dressed for the Oilers game was because Andre Kasha was out, right? Andre Kasha wasn't playing, so Engvall, Mikheyev, and Camp was the third line, and so Ritchie was able to stick on that fourth line with Spezza and Simmons. But it seems like with this wave that Kasha is probably good to come back, like in the next couple of days. And so if that's the case, $2.5 million for a guy who's not gonna hit the ice for you, like we mentioned, it's a lot. And by waiving him, and if he clears waivers, assuming no one claims him, his cap hit's only going to be around $1.375 million, as you can see here on Cap Friendly. And obviously, it's not ideal to pay a guy 1.4 almost $1 million and not play for a hockey team, but it's better than paying $2.5 million for a guy who's not going to play for your hockey team. And me and Q were talking a bit earlier, and we were saying, this could be an opportunity, with Liljegren coming back, with Kasha coming back and healthy. I think that means that there's 22 roster spots that are filled, assuming Biega doesn't get sent down. Maybe this is an opportunity where the Leafs want to take a look at some of the other players again. Some of the younger players that probably fit the way this team plays better, to give them a couple of spot opportunities, instead of, because we know what we're getting with Nick Ritchie at this point, and it's not good enough. And maybe just take a look at what a guy like maybe Joey Anderson or Brett Seney can bring to the team.
Yeah, and it's also good because this team they haven't played in a long time. So obviously you want these players that are in the top that are already on the forward court to play a lot, but at some point you're gonna have to give them a rest, and they are going on a road trip. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always good to have extra players on you with on your team with the road trip, to so that they can come in because guys are obviously going to be tired. So guys like Spezza or Simmons, they could come out for one guy and you can give them a look. So I think that's kind of what the Leafs are trying to do here. That's their plan.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just we were gonna have to figure out the cap situation eventually with everyone getting healthy. Mrazek was on IR for a while; he's back now with his full cap hit. Kasha's fully healthy. Mikheyev came off IR, right? These are just contracts that Dubas has to fit in under the cap, and for Nick Ritchie, it really is just a cap move. Um, and well, I wouldn't say it's just a cap move because you know Ritchie was given the opportunity to fight for a job, to stay on this team, to stay on this NHL roster, and the two guys that he was really fighting tooth and nail with this season, the last couple of games, for this roster spot are Andre Kasha and Pierre Engvall. Engvall is a guy that's been on the Leafs roster for a couple of years now, and Kasha was a free agent signing just like Ritchie, except he's been battling injury issues the last two seasons. So, at the start of this season, really the guy that we thought probably would have been the most impactful for the Leafs was going to be Nick Ritchie. And in contrast, it's been the other two guys. They've just been better, and they're coming in at half the cap hit. So this is Andre Kasha's chart from evolvinghockey.com. Again, they do great advanced analytics over there. And you can see that, Kasha isn't incredible, offensively, defensively, I mean, but he has been incredible in terms of generating opportunities offensively. And he's fit his speedy kind of a gritty kind of style, especially on the forecheck and his chemistry with David Kampf. He's been incredible when he's played for Toronto on that third line. And obviously the defensive numbers you would like them to be a bit higher, especially since his line mate David Kampf is Toronto's shutdown center, right? And in the playoffs, if you want Kampf to be the guy who rotates onto other teams' top lines, you'd hope that his line mates would be able to hold their own defensively. But you look at his offensive stats here. You look at him on the power play, where Toronto's second unit power play has been exceptional, and as he looked even more dangerous the last two games with Mikheyev now on that unit as well. He's been incredible on the power play for us. He's played well offensively 5-on-5. Defense could use some work, but he's bringing a positive impact to the team, right?
Yeah, and um, now that the what's it called, Mikheyev's back and he's on the third line with Kasha and Kampf, it kind of we know that he's good defensively. It kind of takes a bit of the pressure off Kasha to be able to play that way, but still, like obviously you'd want him to be better. But in any case, he's been a lot better than Ritchie has because he's moved up and down the lineup and he's been pretty good in every single spot he's played. And someone with that flexibility at that low of a cap hit, it's just definitely a better option than Ritchie is at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And Engvall is a guy that last season I was high on. I really was convinced, especially in that stretch where he was playing with Hyman Mikheyev on the third line, that I was like, this guy could be our third line center. And he kind of disappointed down the stretch of that season, and he kind of fell out of my good graces. And this year at the start of the season, I still thought he could make the NHL roster, but it wasn't a lock. I wasn't really sure. But he's been good, man. He's been good this year. You can tell. Q will go more into it because he's paid a lot more attention to Engvall than really I have. But you can look just from the advanced analytics, you can tell that Engvall's played well this season.
Yeah, and Engvall's someone he has speed, a lot of speed. He matches the type of game that the Maple Leafs want to be playing, which is just um go 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 all the time. And because of that, it's helped him be like tenacious, really tenacious, get on pucks really quickly and get possession, which, like we mentioned in our last Leaf Town, that's the type of game the Leafs want to be playing: get the puck and keep it. And he hasn't scored all that much. He scored a lot to start the season on the power play, but not was it on the power play? I don't remember. It's been a while.
He had that hot start to the season that really had a couple of Leafs fans excited, and then his production has tapered off like 2 weeks after. So
Okay, so it didn't last long, but honestly, Engvall, he's going to be on the fourth line at this point, because Mikheiv's back and he's been amazing, and he's on that third line. So you're not exactly expecting him to score a lot of goals. And honestly, he may start scoring more now that he's on the fourth line because the what's it called, the competition he's playing against is a lot easier.
Yeah.
But for someone that's not had that much ice time, for someone that wasn't expected, honestly, he wasn't expected to make the team at the beginning of the season for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, he's definitely been really, really good. I you could ask for more goal scoring, but at the same time, if he plays like this for the rest of the season, I'm more than happy with what he's done. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with Engvall is that he's got a good shot too. Like he's got like that quick, snappy release, and we've seen at times this season the Colorado game. When the game was already well out of hand, and he got that odd man rush, and he just sniped it. On the blocker side of Jonas Johansson. It was a beautiful shot, right? It was right after I think Matthews had a shot kind of like that, where it was just an absolute snipe, and you see those flashes and you say he's definitely got the capability. It's just a matter of consistency with him, right? You look at the physical tools that Engvall has, and he's a perfect bottom six guy because he can play anywhere on that bottom six. He played third line center for the Leafs last year. He can play fourth line center. He can win faceoffs. He can penalty kill when he's not in the penalty box. And I think Engvall's done a better job this year of staying out of the penalty box, which I think has improved his value. Part of his issues the last two seasons with the Leafs was that, yeah, he's long, he's lengthy, he's fast, he can kill penalties, but it doesn't really matter if you're a good penalty killer if you're in the box
yeah,
for those penalties. You can't kill a penalty if you're in the penalty box. So he's done a better job this year of staying disciplined. And he's a big guy. He doesn't really throw his body around as much as you would like. I think he's kind of like a better version of Frederic Gauthier, a faster version of Frederic Gauthier, a little bit more skilled as well. But I'd like a little bit more physicality out of him. He's a big body and he gets knocked off balance a little bit easily sometimes, but he's tenacious on the forecheck. He's not afraid to try to do some things offensively in handling the puck. So yeah, he's been good, right? And I think the entire theme is both of these guys. Kasha has been incredible offensively. He's been kind of bad defensively, and Engvall has been incredible defensively and not so great offensively, but both of the guys fill a need. They do something that makes them valuable to this team. And what we'll see when we go to Nick Ritchie's chart right here is that he doesn't really do any of that 5-on-5.
yeah. He kind of where he's best is when he's on the power play. Um, he's just sitting there in front of the net. He's using his body. I think he knows how to do that. That's the role he's been playing his whole career. But the Leafs, while you do want someone in front of the net, you want someone going there. It's not about just parking yourself in front of the net and doing nothing else, because like I mentioned so many times, the Leafs playing style is move fast, and Ritchie he just can't do that. His speed, compared to every single line he's played with, he just can't keep up. When he played with Matthews and Marner, I think that was the main concern. He's just not going to be able to keep up. Even when he's playing on the third and fourth line, he's still so slow, and I think that is what's really hurting him when it comes to being able to contribute offensively and even defensively. Getting back, he's not being able to move around that much, and I don't know. I can't really say this because I'm not a professional, but I don't know if fitness is a bit of a problem for Richie because he does look uh I don't know
He
if I'm allowed to say this.
looks like everyone else looks like they're skating on ice, and he looks like he's skating in molasses or he's moving in quicksand.
Yeah,
He looks lethargic. He looks and I don't want to say this, right? Because as fans, we're not in the mental state of hockey players, right? We can't assume, what they're thinking or what their mindset is. But sometimes it almost feels like he's almost disinterested. Like he's not, and that's not. It's not like that was a criticism that William Nylander got, earlier on in his career after the contract extension debacle. But with Nick Ritchie, I don't think it's so much as we don't think that he's trying his best. It's just that physically he moves so slowly.
Yeah.
We don't think that he's giving everything he's got because we're looking at the other guys on this roster and the movement, how fast they can move the puck and how fast they can get up and down the ice, how well they get in on the forecheck. And you look at Nick Ritchie skating with those guys, and he's noticeably the slowest player on that team.
It may just be a matter of fit for Nick Ritchie. He just doesn't fit in with the Leafs, and we expected him to come in and play a role, and he just can't do that because he's not fast enough to keep up. He could go to a heavier team, like I don't know what's a heavier team. I don't know, like what?
I mean, he could go back to Boston, but I don't want to make a trade with
Yeah,
Boston.
yeah, I don't know, like maybe St. Louis, maybe something like that.
Yeah, St. Louis would definitely be a good fit. They play a more rugged style. The Rangers,
Yeah, the
I
Rangers.
like him. They've been investing heavy in enforcers. Um,
So it may just be he needs to change the scenery, and we say that a lot because it's true. Sometimes you just don't fit in with the team, and it's not going to work out. And the Leafs, I think they tried. They tried to put him into a position where he could do better, and I think on that fourth line where it's not as high octane, he did do better, and you could definitely see it. But still, just in general and the whole team, he just couldn't fit the style, and it's not exactly his fault. I wouldn't say it's his fault. It's just comparatively, he just isn't. I don't know what to say. I don't know how
he,
it's. Yeah, go
he
ahead.
just doesn't fit what this team's vision of how to play hockey
Yeah,
is. He just doesn't fit, and that's not against him as a player because I'm sure that Nick Ritchie on the Boston Bruins last year, the way he played, there are a lot of teams in the NHL that would be interested in someone like him. Whether that's on the power play or in a third line role. It's just the Leafs don't need him. Really, Nick Ritchie's main value that he's brought this season has been a net front presence on the power play, right? That's where the majority of his value has come. And the thing is, the Leafs in general this year have tried to put priority on scoring playoff type goals, right? Which is getting to the front of the net. And you know, hockey has changed. James Van Riemsdyk has made a career out of scoring net front goals, getting in front, tipping the puck, right? John Tavares has turned his career into that kind of role with the Leafs. But in the playoffs, and that you can't just have one guy that's in front
yeah.
of the net. Right? And a theme with the Leafs this season is every time the puck goes on net, you always have two guys, three guys that are in the crease area looking for a rebound, looking for a tip, looking for a deflection. And so while Nick Ritchie brings value as a really big body who can just park himself in front of the net, the reality is the Leafs are trying to make it so that everyone is doing that, right? And so it's become a situation where Ritchie doesn't necessarily he doesn't bring a skill set that's irreplaceable. Because Wayne Simmons is a guy that gets in front of the net now. Camp is a guy who gets in front of the net.
The whole
So
team in general is just going to the front of the net more.
exactly. So I mean, yeah, for sure. This team is, and I think it's a good thing when you look at a guy who's been successful last season as Nick Ritchie was last year, and you go, no, you don't need a guy like him, right? I think that speaks volumes about how this team has progressed.
Hmm.
Um, and in terms of we can come back here to the salary cap here. I mean, in terms of salary cap implications, like we said, it clears up a little bit over $1 million in cap space, but realistically, this is a guy that you put him in the AHL, right? You hope that maybe he can rediscover some part of his game. But I think this is sealed his fate. I think he's gone at the trade deadline this year, and I don't think the Leafs will get value for him. But he's going to be in that trade for the sole purpose of cap implications. He's going to be a salary matcher for any move that Toronto wants to make, right? Because we all know that Dubas is going to make some sort of improvement to this team. And, with the team already so close to the cap ceiling, we probably have to move out some salary to bring in a guy. So Nick Ritchie right now, I mean, we already suspected this earlier this season, but I think it's confirmed now. This is a guy that's going to get moved at the deadline.
Yeah,
No matter.
and honestly, and like we mentioned, if he goes to the right team, he's gonna do well because he just has a skill set on to not. He has a different skill set than what this team needs, and he could go to another team and he could do really well. And it could suck that the Leafs traded him away for nothing, but at the same time, they got him for nothing. So
Yeah. And if you really think about it, right, Leafs fans are saying, some people were saying, oh, Dubas masterclass, like, oh, good job, you signed Nick Ritchie at $2.5 million per year, but they got David Kampf for 1.5.
mhm.
Really, I mean, you could argue with the way that Kampf has played this season, he probably deserves closer to $2.5 million. Andre Kasha this certainly has played as at least in terms of his offensive production 5-on-5 and how well he's played on the power play. You can argue he's probably deserving $2 million contract, right? So these are guys that, and Bunting took a discount to come to Toronto.
Yeah,
We know for a fact this guy got offers double of what Toronto paid him,
we
and he
got
came to.
lucky. We got really
Right?
lucky.
We got really lucky with Bunting, right? So the point is, yeah, Nick Ritchie, $2.5 million. But when you go bargain hunting late in free agency, like the way that Dubas had to do with our 4 big contracts, you hit on some, you're gonna miss on some, right? It's kind of like Dubas did with our bottom 6 or like depth players with what MLB teams do every year with pitchers, bullpen
Hmm.
pitchers. They throw out 50 contracts. They throw darts at the dartboard and they're hoping some stick.
Yeah,
And if they stick, there you go. We've got guys that can play for us on relatively cheap contracts. They'll be productive. And the ones that don't stick, oh well. We have to live with the losses, right? We win some, we lose some. So with Ritchie, matter of fit, we won some, we lost some here. We lost with Ritchie, but that's okay. Not every general manager is going to hit on every contract.
yeah, and I think that's the big thing here. It was unfortunate, and at the end of the day, the Leafs don't lose anything from not having. They could have gained from Ritchie being really good, but they don't lose anything from him not being that great. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's still a net positive for the whole off season for every single move Dubas has made so far, and I think he's done a good job.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think that's pretty much all we wanted to say, right?
Yeah. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, and I mentioned this yesterday when I did that video on Makar and Fox, and I'm having fun just coming in here and talking about hockey for 20 minutes or so with other people that also care about hockey, and we want to keep on doing that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
you'll
For
definitely
sure.
see a lot more videos in the future. Okay, thank you very much for listening to another episode of Leafs Town, and we're gonna ride on out of here. See you guys.
See ya.